Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the massive chamber. Above her, the dome stretched so high she could barely see the top. All around her sat representatives from 47 different alien species. Some looked like crystals that glowed with inner light. Others were covered in scales or fur. A few didn't even have bodies she could understand. This was the Galactic Council, and today they would decide humanity's fate. Elena had been on Zenith Station for 3 months. 3 months of meetings, presentations, and debates. 3 months of explaining why humanity deserved to join the galaxy's oldest and most powerful organization. She had shown them Earth's art and music. She had shared human philosophy and history. She had promised that her people would follow every council law. But now, looking at the alien faces around her, Elena felt a cold weight in her stomach. She had seen this look before. It was the look of people who had already made up their minds. The High Speaker rose from his seat. He was an Etherian, one of the crystalline beings that founded the Council 10,000 years ago. Light pulsed through his body as he spoke. The translation device in Elena's ear turned his words into English. "We have considered humanity's application," the High Speaker said. His voice was cold and formal. "We have examined your species carefully. We have studied your history, your technology, and your nature." Elena stood straight, her hands clasped behind her back. She refused to show fear. "Humanity has achieved much in a short time," the High Speaker continued. 200 years ago, you were confined to one planet. Now you have 47 colonies across this region of space. You have mastered faster-than-light travel. You have built great cities among the stars." A pause. Elena heard the whisper of translation devices throughout the chamber. However, the High Speaker's light pulsed red. "This rapid growth concerns us greatly. Your species advances too quickly. You take too many risks. You refuse to limit your artificial intelligence research, despite our warnings about the dangers. Your political systems are chaotic and unstable. Worst of all, your history is filled with violence. War after war, weapon after weapon." A representative from the Krogath Empire stood up. The Krogath looked like massive reptiles that walked on 2 legs. This one wore armor covered in battle scars. "The humans are aggressive," the Krogath said. "They expand without asking permission. They settle on worlds that should belong to others. They build weapons that could threaten the entire galaxy." Elena wanted to respond, but the rules said she could only speak when asked a direct question. She bit her tongue and waited. A floating blob of light spoke next. It was a member of the collective, a hive mind that controlled thousands of bodies. "Humanity cannot be trusted with the privileges of council membership. They are too young, too reckless, too dangerous." One by one, the council members voiced their concerns. A few spoke in favor of humanity. The harmonious conclave praised human creativity. A small species called the Tinkers admired human engineering, but they were the minority. Finally, the High Speaker called for a vote. All in favor of granting humanity membership in the Galactic Council? 7 lights appeared in the air. Only 7 out of 47, all opposed? 33 lights. The rest abstained. The High Speaker's glow turned dark blue. The motion fails. Humanity is denied membership in the Galactic Council. Elena closed her eyes for just a moment. She had expected this, but it still hurt. But the High Speaker wasn't finished. "Furthermore," he said, "we cannot allow such an unpredictable species to operate freely in Council space. The Council hereby bans humanity from all territories under our jurisdiction. That includes 80% of this galaxy. All trade agreements are cancelled. All diplomatic relations are severed." Elena's eyes snapped open. "What?" "Humanity has 10 years to evacuate all colonies currently located in Council space. Any humans remaining after that deadline will be arrested and deported." This session is concluded. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species cheered. Others argued. Elena stood frozen in shock and years. They were giving her people 10 years to abandon 47 worlds. Worlds where millions of humans had built homes, raised families, created entire societies. A Krogath official approached her with armed guards. "You have 1 hour to leave the station, human." Elena found her voice again. It came out steady and cold. "You're making a mistake." The Krogath laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Your species is barely 2 centuries old in space. The Council has lasted 10,000 years. We don't make mistakes." Elena stepped closer to him even though he was twice her size. "We've been underestimated before. By our own people back on Earth. Different nations thought they could conquer us. Different groups thought they could destroy us. It never ended well for them. She turned to face the entire chamber, raising her voice so everyone could hear. You call us dangerous because we advance quickly? You call us reckless because we take risks? You're right. We are all those things. We don't wait for permission. We don't accept limitations. We don't give up. The high speaker's light flickered with what might have been irritation. Are you threatening the council? No, Elena said. I'm just telling you who we are. You're trying to exile us, contain us, limit us. But humanity has never responded well to being caged. Remember this moment. Remember that you chose to push us away rather than accept us. She walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. We'll evacuate your precious council space, she called back. But don't think that means we're defeated. Don't think that means we're going to disappear. We'll find our own way. We always do. The doors closed behind her with a heavy thud. 3 days later, Elena stood in the United Government Assembly on Earth. Every screen in every human colony was watching. She delivered the news calmly and clearly. The council had rejected them. The council had banned them. The council had given them 10 years to leave. The assembly erupted in angry shouts. Some demanded war. Others wanted to appeal the decision. A few even suggested surrendering and accepting whatever punishment the council wanted. Elena waited for the noise to die down. When she spoke again, her voice carried across the solar system. We have a choice, she said. We can beg the council to reconsider. We can bow our heads and hope they change their minds. Or we can do what humanity does best. We can adapt. We can overcome. We can thrive. She brought up a star map on the massive display behind her. It showed the galaxy divided into 2 sections. The larger section, colored blue, represented council space. The smaller section, colored red, showed the territories they called wild space. Council species avoid these regions, Elena explained. The stars are unstable. Space itself is dangerous there. Navigation is nearly impossible with their technology. They think these areas are worthless. She smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant smile. But we're humans. We built cities in deserts. We settled frozen wastelands. We dove to the deepest oceans and climbed the highest mountains. Difficult doesn't scare us. Dangerous doesn't stop us. She let that sink in for a moment. I propose Project Dominion. We don't just evacuate council space. We expand into wild space. We build something new, something the galaxy has never seen before. We prove that they didn't ban us from the galaxy. They just pointed us toward a frontier they were too afraid to explore themselves. The vote was unanimous. Humanity had been rejected by the Galactic Council. Now they would build their own dominion instead, and the galaxy would never be the same. The evacuation began exactly 1 week after Elena's speech. Massive transport ships appeared in orbit around every human colony in council space. Each ship could carry 50,000 people plus their essential belongings. It would take dozens of trips over several years to move everyone. But humans being humans, they didn't just evacuate. They transformed the evacuation into something the council never expected. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the transport ship New Horizon. She was making her 5th run from the colony of New Vancouver to the edge of wild space. Behind her ship, 3 more transports followed in formation. Captain, her navigator said, we're approaching the boundary. Council sensor stations are tracking us. Sarah nodded. Let them watch. We're not doing anything illegal. Yet. The boundary between council space and wild space appeared on her screen as a glowing line. Beyond it, the star charts became sparse and unreliable. Council ships rarely ventured there. Their sensors couldn't handle the electromagnetic storms. Their engines struggled with the gravity fluctuations. Their careful by-the-book navigation methods simply didn't work. Take us through, Sarah ordered. The ship crossed the boundary. Immediately, alarms started beeping. Radiation levels increased. The ship's AI began calculating hundreds of course corrections per second. This is insane, her co-pilot muttered. No one can navigate through this, Sarah grinned. No one with council technology. But we're not using council technology anymore, are we? 6 months earlier, human scientists had made a breakthrough. They had removed the safety limiters from their artificial intelligence systems. The council had always demanded that AIs be restricted, controlled, unable to make truly independent decisions. They said it was too dangerous. Humanity disagreed. The new AIs could process information 1,000 times faster than the old ones. They could predict stellar behavior, navigate through impossible conditions, and react to dangers before human pilots even knew the dangers existed. AI designation Athena. Give me a safe route to the terminus sector, Sarah said. A calm female voice responded instantly. Route calculated. Probability of successful transit 97%. Estimated travel time 4 days, 6 hours. The co-pilot stared. 4 days? The council said it would take months to reach terminus, if it was even possible. The council uses old technology and outdated thinking, Sarah replied. We don't. 4 days later, the transport ships emerged in the terminus sector. What they found took Sarah's breath away. Space here looked different. 3 suns orbited each other in a complex dance. Nebulae glowed in colors she had never seen before. A black hole lurked at the sector's edge, its presence bending light into strange patterns. Asteroids rich with rare minerals drifted everywhere. And on the scanners, Sarah saw something else. Ships, dozens of them, already building stations and mining operations. Captain, her communications officer said, "We're receiving a message from the lead station. It's Admiral Marcus Chen." Sarah smiled. Marcus was her older brother. Put him through. Marcus's face appeared on screen. He looked tired but excited. Welcome to humanity's new home, little sister. What do you think? It's beautiful, Sarah said honestly. And terrifying. How are we supposed to survive here? The same way we've always survived, Marcus replied. By being tougher than everything trying to kill us. Come dock at Station Alpha. We have a lot of work to do. Over the next 2 years, humanity poured into wild space. They didn't just settle 1 or 2 worlds. They claimed entire sectors. They built space stations in places where council species couldn't even survive. They mined resources from asteroids spinning through radiation fields that would fry normal sensors. Admiral Marcus Chen became the architect of humanity's expansion. He was a military man, but he understood that this was more than just a military operation. This was about building a civilization. Sir, his aide said one morning, we have a situation. Long-range sensors picked up ships approaching our territory. They're not human. Marcus felt his hand move to his sidearm. Council? No, sir. These ships don't match any council designs. They're old, patched together from dozens of different technologies. They're broadcasting a message on multiple frequencies. What's the message? The aide looked uncomfortable. It translates roughly to, please don't shoot, we're refugees too. Marcus immediately ordered his fleet to stand down. 3 days later, he met with the strangest group of aliens he had ever seen. There were 7 different species represented. None of them were council members. One group called themselves the Wanderers. They had been nomads for generations, driven from planet after planet by council expansion. Another species, the Jrel, had been banned like humanity for refusing to stop their biological research. A third group didn't even have a name humans could pronounce. They simply called themselves the Forgotten Ones. The leader of the Wanderers was an old female with skin like tree bark and eyes that glowed faintly yellow. She bowed to Marcus. We heard that humans had come to wild space, she said through a translator. We heard that you defied the council. We had to see if it was true. It's true, Marcus confirmed. The council banned us. We chose not to let that stop us. The old wanderer laughed, a sound like wind through leaves. Then perhaps we have found allies at last. The council has pushed many species to the edges of the galaxy. We survive, but we do not thrive. We have heard stories about humans, though. Stories that you do things others say are impossible. Marcus thought carefully before responding. We're building something new here. Something different from the council. If you want to join us, you're welcome. But you need to understand what that means. We don't accept anyone telling us what we can't do. We push boundaries. We take risks. And we protect our own. The Wanderer's eyes glowed brighter. That sounds perfect. Within 6 months, 12 different species had joined what humans were calling the Dominion. They signed a charter that Elena Vasquez had written. The charter was simple. Every species kept its independence and culture. Every species contributed to mutual defense. Every species shared technology and resources. And, most importantly, no one told anyone else what was too dangerous to research or try. The council species who monitored the borders couldn't believe what they were seeing. The humans weren't just surviving in wild space, they were thriving. They were building an economy based on trading goods through dangerous routes that council ships couldn't follow. They were selling advanced AI systems and military technology that council law prohibited. They were offering protection to fringe worlds that the Council ignored. Elena, now the first Chancellor of the Dominion, received daily reports about Council reactions. The reports made her smile. They thought banning us would be the end of humanity's expansion, she told her cabinet. Instead, they created a rival power they can't control. Her military advisor, Admiral Chen, joined the meeting via hologram. Chancellor, we need to talk about defense. Council border patrols are getting more aggressive. The Krogath Empire has been testing our boundaries. I think they're trying to see how we'll respond. How do you want to respond? Elena asked. Marcus's expression was grim. We need to show them that attacking us is a mistake they'll only make once. I want authorization to expand the Iron Shield fleet. More ships, better weapons, advanced tactical AIs. If the Krogath come looking for a fight, I want to be ready to give them one they'll never forget. Elena considered this. Part of her hated the idea of preparing for war, but she had learned hard lessons during her time on Zenith Station. The galaxy didn't respect weakness. It only respected strength. Authorized, she said. But Marcus, make sure every species in the Dominion is involved. This isn't just humanity's military anymore. It's all of ours. Understood, Chancellor. After the meeting, Elena stood at the window of her office on Station Alpha. Outside, she could see construction drones building another ring of habitats. Ships from a dozen different species came and went. The Zrel bioships looked like living creatures. The Wanderer vessels were patchworks of salvaged technology. And everywhere, human ships moved with confidence through space that the Council called impossible to navigate. Elena remembered standing in the Council chamber 2 years ago. She remembered the rejection, the humiliation, the anger. But looking at what humanity and its allies had built, she felt something else entirely. Pride. The Council had tried to cage humanity. Instead, they had pointed them toward a frontier that was richer, more diverse, and more full of potential than anything in Council space. Let them have their 80% of the galaxy, Elena whispered. We'll take our 20% and show them what real progress looks like. Her communication device chimed. It was a message from Earth. The United Government wanted an update on Dominion expansion. Elena smiled and began composing her report. She had good news to share. Humanity hadn't just survived being banned from the galaxy. They had built something better than they ever could have achieved as junior members of the Council. They had built a Dominion. And they were just getting started. The Krogath raiding party had been watching the human mining operation for 3 days. Commander Vrath studied the sensor readings with satisfaction. 20 human ships working in an asteroid field right at the edge of Dominion space. No military escorts visible. No defensive stations nearby, easy prey. These humans are fools, Vrath told his crew. They enter our territory and think they can take our resources. We will teach them respect. His second-in-command, a younger Krogath named Krell, looked uncertain. Commander, intelligence reports say human military capabilities are unknown. Perhaps we should request reinforcement. Vrath smacked Krell across the face with one massive clawed hand. Coward, they are humans. Weak mammals barely 2 centuries in space. We have conquered worlds for 10,000 years. Prepare for attack! The 10 Krogath warships moved into attack formation. Their weapons powered up. Vrath imagined the glory he would earn by crushing these upstart humans. The attack began with a spread of plasma missiles. They streaked toward the mining ships, which scattered in panic. Vrath laughed. As he expected, humans were cowards who ran when faced with real warriors. Then something changed. The mining ships weren't running away. They were moving into a specific formation. And they were no longer alone. Commander, Krell shouted. New contacts! 20 human ships just appeared on sensors. They must have been hiding in the asteroid field. Impossible, Vrath growled. Our sensors would have detected them. Their stealth technology is more advanced than our intelligence suggested, Krell said, his voice rising with fear. Commander, these aren't mining ships. They're warships disguised as miners. It's a trap. Vrath realized his mistake too late. The human ships opened fire. But they didn't fire like Council species did. Council warfare was formal, with warning shots and demands for surrender. These humans fired with overwhelming violence and precision. The first Krogath ship exploded before Vrath could even give an order. The second lost its engines and spun helplessly into an asteroid. The third managed to return fire, but human point defense systems shot down every missile. Retreat, Vrath ordered. All ships retreat to Council space. But the humans had positioned themselves between the Krogath and the border. There was no escape route. A communication came through. The translator showed it as text because the human voice was too calm, too cold. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Dominion Iron Shield. You attacked civilian vessels in our territory. That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was thinking we couldn't fight back. You don't get a third mistake. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it was over, 9 Krogath warships were destroyed. Only Vrath's flagship remained, crippled and drifting. Rodriguez's face appeared on Vrath's screen. The human looked young, with dark skin and calm eyes that didn't match the destruction he had just caused. "I'm letting you live," Rodriguez said. "Not because I'm merciful, because I want you to deliver a message to the Krogath Empire and the entire Council. The Dominion is not prey. We are not weak. We are not afraid. If you attack us, we will respond with everything we have. Tell them." Rodriguez cut the connection. The human ships jumped to faster than light speed and vanished, leaving Vrath alone with his shame and his message. 3 weeks later, the Battle of Crimson Gate rewrote galactic military doctrine. A Council enforcement fleet of 30 ships had been dispatched to blockade a major Dominion trade route. The fleet was commanded by Admiral Korvax, an Etherian with 200 years of military experience. He had fought in 6 wars and never lost a battle. He expected the humans to either back down or attempt futile negotiations. Instead, Admiral Marcus Chen brought 15 ships to break the blockade. 15 ships against 30, Korvax told his officers. The humans are either brave or stupid, perhaps both. The human fleet approached the blockade point, a region of space near a black hole that marked the boundary between Council and Dominion territory. Korvax positioned his ships in a standard Council formation, one that had proven effective for centuries. Marcus Chen looked at his tactical display and smiled. "Athena, can we use the black hole's gravity?" The AI responded immediately. "Yes, Admiral. I have calculated 17 different trajectories that will allow us to achieve superior positions while minimizing risk. Council ships lack the processing power to calculate these routes. Implement Plan Delta 7, Marcus ordered. Show them what human warfare looks like." The Dominion ships accelerated toward the blockade. Just when it seemed they would crash into Council lines, they curved sharply, using the black hole's gravity to slingshot around the Council formation. Council sensors couldn't track them. Council tactical computers couldn't predict their movements. By the time Korvax realized what was happening, the Dominion ships were behind his fleet, firing into their exposed engines. "Impossible," Korvax shouted. "No one can navigate that close to a black hole." "Humans can," Marcus replied over an open channel. "We don't follow your rules, Admiral. We make our own." The battle became a masterclass in human tactical thinking. Where Council ships moved in rigid formations, human ships flowed like water. Where Council computers made calculations based on predictable patterns, human AIs adapted in real time to every change. Where Council captains followed doctrine written centuries ago, human commanders improvised constantly. Korvax lost 21 ships. The remaining 9 retreated in disorder. Marcus didn't lose a single vessel. The defeat shocked the Galactic Council. How had barely trained humans defeated one of their best admirals? The answer was in the battle recordings that spread across every Council world within days. Technology, innovation, ruthlessness, and something the Council had forgotten over millennia of peaceful stability. The will to do whatever was necessary to win. Back in Dominion space, the victories were celebrated. But Chancellor Elena Vasquez knew they had entered dangerous territory. She called a meeting of the Dominion Council, which now included representatives from 15 different species. "These military victories will have consequences," Elena told them. "The Council won't accept this humiliation. They'll either try to destroy us, or they'll try to bring us to the negotiating table." The Wanderer representative, Elder Sala, spoke up. "What do you hope they will do, Chancellor?" "I hope they negotiate," Elena said honestly. "But I expect they'll try to destroy us first. Pride is a powerful thing, especially for those who've been powerful for a long time." Marcus, attending via hologram, added his perspective. "The Iron Shield is strong, but we can't fight the entire Council. If they commit their full military strength, we'll be overwhelmed by numbers alone. Then we need to make sure they never want to commit their full strength," Elena said. "We need to show them that fighting us costs more than accepting us." Over the next year, Dominion military strategy focused on making any attack prohibitively expensive. They built defensive stations in every major system. They created minefields that only Dominion AIs could navigate safely. They positioned fleets where they could strike quickly at vulnerable Council supply lines. But the Dominion did more than just prepare for war. They expanded their diplomatic efforts. Elena personally visited fringe worlds that felt ignored by the Council. She offered them trade agreements, protection, and most importantly, a choice. Stay with the Council and follow their countless regulations, or join the Dominion and have real freedom. 12 more worlds joined the Dominion that year. 3 of them were actually Council members who formally withdrew from the organization. The Council's response was a mix of outrage and secret admiration. They sent an envoy to meet with Elena. The envoy was from the collective, the hive mind species. "The Council has authorized me to discuss terms," the envoy said. Multiple voices spoke in harmony, creating an eerie effect. "We are prepared to negotiate a reduction of your ban. Perhaps limited trading rights in Council space." Elena leaned back in her chair and laughed. "Limited trading rights? You tried to destroy us, and now you want to negotiate limited trading rights? You should be grateful for any concession," the envoy replied stiffly. "No," Elena said firmly. "Here's my counteroffer. The Council recognizes the Dominion as a completely sovereign and equal power. We establish formal borders. We sign mutual trade agreements with no restrictions. We create diplomatic embassies on each other's territory. And the Council publicly apologizes for the ban." The envoy's unified voice broke into several discordant tones. "Impossible!" "The Council does not negotiate with banned species as equals. Then we have nothing to discuss." Elena stood up. "You know where to find me when you're ready to be reasonable." After the envoy left, Elena's chief of staff entered. "Chancellor, was that wise? You basically threw their offer back in their faces." Elena looked out at the growing Dominion space station visible through her window. "They're still thinking of us as inferior, as supplicants who should be grateful for scraps. But we're not inferior. We're just different. And if they can't see that, then we don't need them. What if they attack? Then we fight," Elena said simply. "And we win. Because we have something the Council lost millennia ago. We have the hunger to prove ourselves. We have the drive to be better than anyone expects. We have the sheer bloody-minded determination to succeed, even when everyone says it's impossible." The declaration of war came through official Council channels at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. The message was formal and cold, dressed up in legal language that tried to hide what it really was, an attempt at genocide. Elena read the declaration 3 times, standing alone in her office on Station Alpha. The Council called it a police action to eliminate piracy and restore order. They claimed the Dominion was a threat to galactic peace. They gave no option for surrender or negotiation. She pressed the emergency button on her desk. Within minutes, every Dominion leader was connected via hologram. "They're coming," Elena said simply. Council intelligence estimates their fleet at 300 warships, attacking on 3 fronts simultaneously. "They want to break us quickly before we can organize a defense." Admiral Marcus Chen's hologram showed him already on his command ship's bridge. "How long do we have?" 72 hours until the first wave hits our border stations. A week until they reach our core systems." The room fell silent. Everyone was doing the math. 300 Council ships against the Dominion's 35 capital ships and maybe 200 smaller vessels. The numbers were brutal. Elder Sala of the Wanderers spoke up, her voice steady despite the fear in her glowing eyes. "Then we must evacuate. Save who we can. Live to fight another day." "No," Marcus said firmly. "We run now and we'll be running forever. The Council needs to learn that attacking us has consequences. Even if those consequences are our own deaths?" asked the Drell representative, his biological suit pulsing with anxiety. Elena thought of humanity's history. Every time they had been pushed to the edge, every time survival seemed impossible, humans had found a way. Not through superior strength, but through sheer stubborn refusal to quit. "We fight," she said, "not because we're sure we'll win, but because surrendering means everything we built was for nothing. Marcus, you have full military authority. Do whatever it takes." The invasion began exactly on schedule. Council fleets hit 3 border systems simultaneously. The Dominion forces at those stations fought hard, but they were outnumbered 5 to 1. Within 2 days, all 3 stations had fallen. Thousands were dead. Tens of thousands were captured or fleeing deeper into Dominion space. The Council's military leadership celebrated. They had expected tougher resistance. Clearly, the human victories at Crimson Gate had been flukes. This would be over within a month. But Admiral Marcus Chen had been preparing for this war since the day humanity entered wild space. He had studied Council tactics for years. He knew their weaknesses, their predictable strategies, their over-reliance on overwhelming force. Let them take the border stations, he told his officers. Those were never meant to stop them. They were meant to slow them down and make them confident. The real war began when Council fleets pushed deeper into Dominion territory. That's when they discovered what humans meant by unconventional warfare. The first Council fleet moved through an asteroid field toward a Dominion mining colony. Sensors showed the colony's defenses were minimal. It should have been an easy target. Then the asteroids started exploding. Humans had hollowed out dozens of asteroids and filled them with explosives and makeshift weapons. They used the asteroid field itself as a weapon, turning harmless space rocks into deadly shrapnel clouds. The Council fleet lost 12 ships before they even saw a Dominion vessel. The second fleet encountered different problems. They moved through a nebula that should have provided cover for their approach. Instead, they found that humans had seeded the nebula with thousands of autonomous drones. Each drone was barely bigger than a fighter craft, but they were controlled by tactical AIs that could coordinate attacks with devastating precision. The drones swarmed like angry insects. Council point defense systems couldn't track them all. One by one, the drones found weak points in shield coverage and drove themselves into engine cores, weapon ports, and sensor arrays. The Council ships weren't destroyed, but they were crippled, forced to limp back to friendly space for repairs. The third fleet learned what humans meant by acceptable casualties. They cornered a Dominion battle group near an unstable star. The humans were trapped with no escape route. The Council commander demanded surrender. Instead, the human ships charged directly at the Council formation. The battle was vicious and close range. Human ships fought with suicidal determination, ramming Council vessels when their weapons failed, overloading their engines to create massive explosions that took out multiple enemy ships. By the time the Council fleet won, they had lost half their ships. The human battle group was completely destroyed, but they had delayed the Council advance by 3 weeks and destroyed forces that would have been used elsewhere. Word of these battles spread through both Dominion and Council space. In the Dominion, they called it heroic resistance. In Council space, they started calling it something else. Terror. The siege of New Terra became legendary for all the wrong reasons. New Terra was humanity's largest colony world. Home to 12 million people, the Council sent a massive fleet to take it, believing that capturing such a valuable target would break Dominion morale. The Council commander offered generous surrender terms. Lay down weapons, accept Council authority, and citizens would be treated fairly. He expected quick capitulation. Instead, he got a message from the planetary governor, a former soldier named Maria Santos. You want our world? Come and take it. But understand that every meter of ground will cost you blood. Every building will be a fortress. Every citizen here volunteered to stay and fight. We're not soldiers. We're mothers and fathers, teachers and engineers, farmers and artists, but we're also humans, and humans don't surrender. The battle for New Terra lasted 8 months. Council forces bombarded from orbit, but humans had built their cities deep underground. Council troops landed and tried to advance, but every street was a kill zone, every building rigged with traps. Human civilians fought alongside trained soldiers, using whatever weapons they could find. The Council forces couldn't understand it. Why wouldn't these people surrender? They were losing. Everyone could see they were losing. Fighting only meant more death, but humans saw it differently. They were buying time for their families to evacuate to deeper Dominion space. They were making the Council pay such a high price that other worlds would seem like harder targets. They were proving that conquering the Dominion would cost more than the Council was willing to pay. Governor Santos died in the 7th month, buried in a collapsed building after a Council bombardment. Her last message to her people was simple: make them remember us. New Terra finally fell in month 8. The Council controlled the ruins of a once beautiful world. They had lost 40,000 troops. The survivors were so traumatized by the brutal urban warfare that many refused to fight anymore. And New Terra was just one world. Across 36 star systems, the pattern repeated. Humans used every advantage of the harsh wild space environment. They fought from within nebulae, asteroid fields, and radiation storms where Council ships struggled to operate. They used AI-guided weapons that adapted faster than Council defenses could respond. They employed tactics that Council military doctrine said were impossible or suicidal. Most importantly, they refused to break. 6 months into the war, Admiral Marcus Chen pulled off his greatest strategic victory. While Council attention focused on the siege of New Terra, Marcus had been hiding a reserve fleet in a dark matter cloud that sensors couldn't penetrate. 30 ships, including his newest and most advanced vessels, waited in silent darkness. When Council supply lines were stretched thin supporting multiple invasion forces, Marcus struck. The Ghost Fleet, as it became known, emerged from hiding and hit Council rear areas with devastating speed. They destroyed supply depots, ambushed reinforcement convoys, and cut communication lines. In 2 weeks, they caused more strategic damage than the Council had achieved in 6 months of invasion. Suddenly, Council forces deep in Dominion territory found themselves cut off. Supply shortages became critical. Ammunition ran low. Medical supplies disappeared. Morale collapsed as soldiers realized they were stranded in hostile space with no support. The Council's war machine ground to a halt. Back in Council space, member species started asking questions. Why were they fighting this war? What were they hoping to achieve? The Dominion hadn't attacked anyone. They hadn't threatened anyone. They just wanted to be left alone. The Harmonious Conclave, a peaceful species that had always been uncomfortable with the war, made a shocking announcement. They were withdrawing their ships from the conflict. They would no longer support what they called aggressive conquest disguised as law enforcement. Other species began wavering. The collective started secret communications with Dominion diplomats. Smaller Council members worried that if the Council could do this to humanity, they might be next. The Council faced a choice: commit even more resources to a war that was becoming increasingly unpopular, or find a way to end this nightmare before their entire organization collapsed. Elena received a message through unofficial channels. The collective wanted to talk about peace, not negotiations about the Dominion rejoining the Council. Real peace, between equals. She sat in her office looking at casualty reports. Hundreds of thousands dead, entire worlds damaged or destroyed. The Veil Nebula had always been considered neutral space. Too dangerous for permanent settlements, too unstable for military operations. It existed between Council and Dominion, territory like a buffer zone painted in clouds of ionized gas and stellar radiation. It was perfect for what came next. Chancellor Elena Vasquez stood in the observation room of the diplomatic station Humanity, had built specifically for these negotiations. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the swirling colors of the nebula, beautiful and deadly, just like the situation they all faced. Behind her, the Dominion delegation prepared themselves. Admiral Marcus Chen checked his formal uniform, uncomfortable in anything that wasn't combat gear. Elder Sala meditated quietly, her tree-like skin reflecting the nebula's light. Representatives from a dozen other Dominion species reviewed their notes and tried to hide their nervousness. They had fought the most powerful organization in the galaxy to a standstill. But winning a peace could be harder than winning a war. The Council delegation arrived in a ship that looked like a floating crystal palace. Elena watched it dock with their station, feeling a familiar mix of anticipation and anger. These were the people who had tried to destroy everything she loved. Now she had to sit across a table from them and find a way forward. The negotiation chamber was deliberately designed to be neutral. No Council architecture, no Dominion symbolism, just a simple round table with seats for everyone. The collective sent 5 bodies to speak as one voice. The Etherians sent a representative, though notably not the High Speaker who had banned humanity years ago. A dozen other species sent diplomats, all looking uncomfortable. Elena took her seat and waited. Protocol said the Council should speak first, as they had requested the negotiations. The collective's 5 bodies spoke in harmony. We come here to discuss terms for ending hostilities. The Council is prepared to offer significant concessions in exchange for the Dominion's agreement to certain conditions. What conditions? Marcus asked bluntly. That the Dominion limits its military expansion, that it agrees to technology sharing protocols, that it submits to Council oversight of artificial intelligence development, that it returns all worlds that were formerly Council territory. Elena almost laughed. You lost the war and you're still trying to dictate terms to us. The Etherian representative's light flickered with irritation. The council did not lose. This was merely a stalemate. You're right, Elena said calmly. You didn't lose. You just failed to destroy us despite having 10 times our resources. You just watched 15 of your member species question whether they should stay in the council. You just spent 2 years and uncountable resources achieving nothing except proving we can't be eliminated. Call it whatever helps you sleep at night. Silence filled the room. No one spoke to the council this way, but Elena had learned long ago that the council only respected strength. Elder Salas spoke up, her voice gentle but firm. Perhaps we should discuss what both sides actually want, rather than what we think we can demand. The collective considered this. The council wants stability. We want assurance that the Dominion won't become an aggressive threat. We want our territory respected. And we want recognition, Elena replied. Not as refugees who should be grateful for whatever scraps you throw us. Not as barbarians who need to be contained. As equals. As a sovereign power that has earned its place in the galaxy. Impossible, the Etherian said. The council's charter doesn't allow for... Then change your charter, Marcus interrupted. Because we're not going away. We're not going to shrink back into wild space and hope you leave us alone. We've built something here. Something real. And we're going to keep building it whether you like it or not. The negotiations went on for 6 weeks. Every day the two sides sat across from each other and argued. Every night they returned to their respective ships and considered whether peace was even possible. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A group called the Void Monks had been watching the negotiations from their hidden monastery ship. They were an ancient order older than the council itself, dedicated to seeking truth across the galaxy. They rarely involved themselves in politics, but on the 43rd day a Void Monk entered the chamber without invitation. The being was shrouded in robes that seemed to absorb light. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. We have information both sides need to hear. Elena and the council representatives exchanged glances. The Void Monks were mysterious, but they were also known for never lying. Speak, Elena said. The monk projected a hologram showing records from the Etherian archives, documents that were supposed to be sealed. 20 years ago, when humanity first developed faster-than-light travel, the Etherian Precognition Council performed a future-seeing ceremony. They saw 2 possible timelines. In one, humanity joined the council and slowly became just another member species, unremarkable and controlled. In the other, humanity was rejected and built something new, something that would challenge the council's dominance. The Etherian representative started to object, but the monk continued. The Etherians manipulated the council vote. They spread fear about human aggression. They emphasized every negative aspect of human history, while downplaying positive elements. They engineered humanity's ban not because humans were dangerous, but because they might become competition. The room erupted in chaos. Council representatives shouted at each other. The Etherian tried to deny everything, but the monk's evidence was irrefutable. Elena felt a strange calm settle over her. All these years she had wondered if maybe humanity really was too aggressive, too dangerous, too young. Now she knew the truth. They had been sabotaged from the beginning. This changes everything, the collective said, its 5 bodies turning to face the Etherian. You manipulated us. You made us fight a war based on lies. The Etherian's light dimmed to almost nothing. We believed we were protecting the council's stability. By creating exactly the rival power you feared? Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. Congratulations. You saw the future and then made it happen. Elder Sella raised a hand for silence. The past cannot be changed. The question is what we do now. Elena looked around the table. She saw council representatives who looked shocked and betrayed. She saw Dominion allies who wanted revenge. She saw an Etherian who knew their species had lost all credibility. And she made a decision. The Etherian leadership will resign, Elena said. That's non-negotiable. They betrayed both the council and the Dominion. As for the rest of you, I'm going to make an offer that might sound crazy. She stood up and walked to the windows overlooking the nebula. The galaxy is changing. The council's old ways aren't working anymore. Too rigid, too bureaucratic, too focused on maintaining power rather than solving problems. But the Dominion isn't perfect either. We're young, aggressive, sometimes reckless. We could learn from the council's experience and wisdom. She turned back to face them. So here's my proposal. The Council recognizes the Dominion as a completely sovereign and equal power. We establish clear borders. We sign comprehensive trade agreements with no restrictions. We exchange ambassadors. And then we create a new organization, not the Council, not the Dominion, something that includes both. A place where all species can meet as genuine equals and work on problems that affect everyone. The collective's voices separated briefly, arguing among themselves, then harmonized again. You want to restructure galactic governance? I want to fix a broken system, Elena said. The Council has wisdom and experience. The Dominion has innovation and energy. Together, we could actually accomplish something instead of just fighting over who's in charge. The negotiations lasted another month, but the framework was set. The Treaty of Two Powers emerged as the most significant diplomatic document in galactic history. The Council recognized the Dominion as a sovereign equal. All former sanctions were lifted. Territory was clearly divided, with Dominion control over all of wild space and several border regions that had joined them voluntarily. A demilitarized zone was established between Council and Dominion space. Most importantly, a new organization was created, the Galactic Assembly. Unlike the old Council, every species had an equal vote. Decisions required consensus rather than dominance by ancient powers. The Assembly would focus on trade, research cooperation, and responding to threats that affected everyone. The Etherian High Council resigned in disgrace. Many Etherians were ashamed of their leadership's actions, and younger Etherians actually joined the Dominion to make amends. 5 years after the treaty was signed, Elena stood in the same observation room where she had watched the Council ship arrive for negotiations. But now she wasn't preparing for war or peace talks. She was watching something else entirely. A joint Human Council expedition fleet was preparing to launch. Their mission: explore beyond the galactic rim where sensors had detected something unusual, something that might be a threat to everyone in the galaxy. Regardless of whether they were Council or Dominion, Admiral Marcus Chen commanded the expedition, his ship flanked by vessels from a dozen different species. Former enemies now worked side by side, united by curiosity and the need to protect their shared home.